What is up, you guys? Teller checking in for the recap of UFC 296. This is going to be a fun one. I have a lot to talk about besides just the event. So much took place this past weekend, and I have some strong thoughts on a lot of things. So hopefully, I don't ruffle too many of your guys' feathers, but I'm going to be letting you know what I thought about some of the craziness that went on over the past weekend. Of course, we'll be recapping the bets that we targeted for UFC 296 as well. It's another profitable event. We profited 6.49 units. We hit 4 of our 6 targeted plays. So we'll go over all that as well. But besides just UFC 296, of course, we're already starting to preview UFC 297 as we saw Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis already kicking off round 1 in the crowd. And we saw them going at it at that press conference as well. And there's been a lot of personal attacks going around everywhere. And I'm going to tell you what I've been thinking about all this craziness and what's been going on. So this will be a fun one. I also promised to do a little bit more matchmaking as we recap this card compared to the last one. I know I only recapped a couple fights. This time I will do a little bit more matchmaking here. And, we'll kick things off talking about Shamil Gaziev and Martin Buday, and this was an official play of mine. 2 units thrown at Shamil Gaziev, caught it at plus 125. Now, obviously, I know a lot of you guys are subscribed to me here on the channel, but I hope you're following me on IG and Twitter, specifically on Twitter here, because I was putting that out there. I was talking about the fact that I was very surprised to see Shamil Gaziev coming into this fight as an underdog. Didn't make a lot of sense to me. His ceiling is so much higher. I feel that Martin Buday it was completely overrated. I wasn't believing into any of the, I wouldn't say hype, not that he was necessarily hyped, but I wasn't believing in the fact that he's this proven UFC fighter that was on like a 4-0 streak in the octagon, and I wasn't buying into that. If you look at the level of competition he was facing, he was fighting very low-level fighters, and I felt that Gaziev at the very least should have been a slight favorite. He had some fights, even coming into his Dana White's Contender Series performance, he had some fights that were respectable. He's fought some decent fighters. This isn't a guy that's just a complete flake, and he completely outclassed Buday, so felt great to cash in on that right there. All right, and the next fight, Andre Fili went out there and cracked Lucas Almeida. How about the performance by Andre Fili there? We talked about the fact that he is the more well-rounded fighter, or he was the more well-rounded fighter going into this match, and could have potentially used some wrestling to exploit the questionable takedown defense of Lucas Almeida. That wasn't the case. He was willing to stand and trade with the Muay Thai striker Lucas Almeida, and I was using all that movement and all that footwork, and eventually set up that nasty right hook, and he cracked Lucas Almeida. That was a big-time victory for Fili. And once again, Fili hops on the mic, and the poor guy has something sad going on outside the octagon. I think this time he just put his dog down, just lost a friend at a motorcycle crash. I know one of the other times we just saw him on the mic when he won, he lost he had an unborn baby that he lost, and I hope next time Fili gets a big time victory and has something good going on from outside the cage, something that he can that can put a smile on his face. Man, the guy, he's a good dude there. Tager Ulanbekov gets the rear naked choke over Cody Durden. This was one of my few losses in the card. I did have a 2-unit play on Cody Durden, grabbed him at plus 145. I stand behind the play. I thought Cody looked good on the feet as long as he can keep it there, but he couldn't maintain that distance, and he was just getting a little overzealous. He was a little too eager to throw those strikes. He should have been a little bit more patient. I really believe that he could have took this fight if he could have just kept that distance and kept the fight striking. He was getting the better of the striking exchanges. He was working those calf kicks. He was landing with his hands. I think Cody's a good fighter. I do. And Tager Ulanbekov is a very good fighter as well. So, yeah, I know I'm constantly saying this, but again, 2 solid fighters in the very deep flyweight division. So, that was one of the few losses we took there, a very small 2-unit loss. How about Ariane Lipsky going out there and just working Casey O'Neill? You guys know this was a pick of mine, not an official play, but I was on Ariane Lipsky. She was roughly a plus 150 underdog coming in against Casey O'Neill. I just don't understand why Casey O'Neill gets all this hype. I know she was undefeated coming into her last fight against Jennifer Maia. Jennifer Maia exposed her, and when you really dissect even her performances before the Maia fight, I just never felt that she should have been as hyped up, and should have been as big of a favorite as she's been in some of her fights. She has a padded record, doesn't have an overwhelming amount of pro experience, and we'll see how she bounces back from that loss, because she really got beat up there. And Ariane Lipsky, she had a slow start to her UFC career. She has proven to be a fight finisher. She has submission skills, nasty Muay Thai skills, and I'm excited to see her fight next. She's always fun to watch. All right, Cody Garbrandt goes out there. I had to give my boy Cody the call, tell him to handle my boy Keller Turd. A lot of you guys were asking what happened with me and Keller Turd. If you guys weren't following me back then, I'll make it real quick. Keller Turd was supposed to come on MMA Live Discussion. He said, yeah, I would love to. Talk to him the day of to confirm. He said, oh, yeah, I'm in again for sure. 8 o'clock, we're going live. And then once the show went live, I was messaging him 5 minutes before, and he was just seeing my message, leaving them seen on Instagram, and just never hopped on, never responded to me. So, I had to call my boy Cody up and tell Cody to style on him. Cody Garbrandt, on a serious note, Cody Garbrandt looked very good. I still question his chin, but when it comes to his skills, he's obviously very talented, and he went out there, styled on Kelleher, finished him up, flattened Kelleher there. Kelleher fell face first down on the mat, and Cody's calling Davison Figueiredo out next, and Figueiredo just made that bump up to the bantamweight division. I'm all for that fight. I'll give you guys a sneak peek right now. I think Figueiredo takes that fight. I think he can test Cody's chin, and I don't know if it holds up. So that would be a great fight, though. 2 former champions clashing there, and I like the confidence Cody has, though, calling for that fight. So that is the fight that I want to see next. How about Irene Aldana, the Clydesdale? A little bit of a slow start against Carol Rosa, and took this fight over. This was one of the better women's mixed martial arts fights I've seen in a long time. Irene Aldana, we know she has that power in her hands. We know she's very, very tough. And I am a true fan of Irene Aldana's. And, what's next for her? I'll look really quickly. I mean, there's not a lot of fights that we could say. I mean, this bantamweight division, you got Mayra Buena Silva fighting Raquel Pennington. I mean, is Aldana in the mix for a potential shot at the title again? We know that she just lost to Amanda Nunes before this victory. Amanda Nunes, the GOAT of women's mixed martial arts. Maybe she's right back in the mix there. I mean, there's just not a lot of other fights to really to rave about, man. This division's it's pretty weak. Miesha Tate just had a big victory. She's still not. You don't want to do that to Miesha, man. Don't do that to Miesha, please. Maybe that's a fight they make. That would be a wild, bloody one. Maybe that's the fight you make. I don't know. Because other than that, there's just not a lot to talk about. Jermaine Durandamy hasn't fought since 2020. I believe she retired. She's still ranked 8th over there, but a lot of other fighters are matched up already, and I won't go on too much more about that. Alonzo Menafield gets the decision victory over Dustin Jacoby. What did you guys think about the decision here? Jacoby maybe potentially took rounds 1 and 2 until he was dropped heavily in the third and hurt. He obviously lost that third round. I think it was the second round that was very close. Menafield landing more powerful shots, Jacoby touching him up a little bit more so. And if Jacoby just doesn't get dropped in that third round, he was winning the beginning of that third round. He had this fight and kind of let it slip out of his grasp there. But we talked about the fact that Menafield has serious power and he had the potential to pull off the upset. So that was a good fight there. Josh Emmett. We talked earlier about a nasty knockout for Andre Fili. How about the knockout here for his teammate, Josh Emmett? Puts Bryce Mitchell out, and Mitchell's twitching and all that. And that was tough to watch. Big props to Mitchell for taking this fight on short notice as well. But Josh Emmett, this was a bad matchup for Mitchell to take on short notice because Josh Emmett has good takedown defense, and he has nasty power, underrated striking. And this was a huge victory for Josh Emmett as he was just having some tough times getting his hand raised as of recently, losing to the best of the best. But now with that victory on the stage that was, he's right in the mix again. If he gets another big victory, he's right at the top of this division. So, he is at the top of the division now, but he gets another big victory, he could actually be clawing at another title shot down the line. So, who do I want to see him fight next? A lot of the top fighters are already matched up. We have Volkanovski and Topuria, of course, fighting for the belt. We've already seen him face off with Yair Rodriguez, and of course Topuria, who's Topuria's book. But the fight that I would like to see, I don't know if this is going to happen, but I would like to see him fight Brian Ortega. I know that doesn't make an extreme amount of sense, and Ortega's been so inactive, but I would love to see him flatline a big name like Ortega. Maybe a fight that makes a little bit more sense. Maybe he can get a fight with Max Holloway. I don't know, if Holloway's looking to do that. I mean, he's probably looking for bigger name fights. Who else we got? I mean, Calvin Kattar's been coming off all these losses, and Cater actually, or he already did lose to Emmett. No reason to make that fight. Giga Chikazi, that's a fight that could actually potentially make some sense for him there. Giga, a phenomenal striker. Maybe we see Giga and Josh Emmett go at it. I think that's a fight I would like to see there. And I think that would make some sense, actually. That's a fight I like. All right, and then we're going to have some action to talk about now. Okay, so Paddy Pimblett, first off, he kicks off the first leg of a two-team parlay. So he does get the job done, of course, against Tony Ferguson, but I actually did drop a one-unit play on this fight to not go to a decision. All right, Paddy Pimblett was so close to getting the finish in the first round, as you guys know, but he just didn't get it, and Tony Ferguson was able to survive. I just didn't think that Ferguson was going to be able to hold up, man. I really believed coming into this fight that he's just so damaged and whatnot, and he's aged, and I just didn't think that he was going to be able to hold up. And that wasn't me being extremely high on Pimblett's finishing ability, because he's not the best striker, more of a grappling-based fighter, and Ferguson's skilled there. I just think a lot of guys can finish Ferguson at this point in time. That's how bad it is, and I don't think we'll ever see Ferguson fight in the octagon again. I think it's over. He got one more opportunity, and good for him for being able to survive there. Just a one-unit loss on that play of this fight to not go to a decision. But again, we did kick off a 4-unit two-team parlay that I got at combined odds of -180. So Pimblett kicks that off. I mean, I felt very comfortable Pimblett at the very least was going to win this fight. Okay, and that was just money that I saw on the floor that I had to pick up. That you guys know I had parlayed with Shavkat Rakhmonov, another fight that I just felt so confident in. That was easy money there. And but I had another prop play targeted with this Shavkat fight, which was very interesting. Check this out. All right, so first and foremost, the two-team parlay, just to go over that one more time, caught it at -180. It was 4 units. Paddy at -130, Shavkat at -600. I think all of you guys should have been on that play. Easy money. But how about this? I had a 1-unit prop bet at -130 that the Shavkat Thompson fight would not, the third round would not start. All right. So if you guys remember how close the end of the second round was to happening, I mean, obviously I was at the end of my seat, man. I was bugging out, and Shavkat eventually got that finish there. That was exciting for me, to say the least. Got that rear naked choke with just 4 seconds left in the round, was dropping elbows. He almost had that initial submission a little bit earlier in the round as well. And I just felt, Shavkat has finished every single one of his fights. Stephen Thompson looked pretty good out there still. We'll talk a little bit more about him in a second, but, looked pretty good out there, even though he's aged. I think him and Colby is the fight to make next. But Shavkat is a fight finisher, and one way or another, I thought he was going to get this job done. And I thought he would clearly get done, but before the end of the second round, it was close there. But who should Shavkat be fighting next? Now, this is the great debate right now, because it's either Bilal Muhammad or Shavkat Rakhmonov to face off with Leon Edwards next. Okay, so obviously, Leon at the top of this card when we get to that fight, but we'll talk about it right now. Is it Bilal Muhammad or is it Shavkat Rakhmonov? Because there's nobody else. There's nobody else barking up the tree next. Vicente Luque had that one win over RDA. Sean Brady had an impressive performance against Kelvin Gastelum, but of course not. He was coming off the loss to Bilal before that. I mean, that's it. Ian Gary needs to do more. Now, Ian Gary is scheduled to face off with Jeff Neal on March 9th. That should be good there at UFC 299. I believe taking place in Miami. So that's a great fight added to that card. And yes, that is. And that's going to be headlined by O'Malley and Chito Vera. So this is, if I'm being honest, I do believe that Bilal Muhammad is more deserving of the title shot. If you take a look at the recent work that he's done, Gilbert Burns was injured as soon as that fight kicked off, but he still did enough to get the job done there. The Sean Brady victory looks better now that Brady just had that big performance. Has a victory over Vicente Luque, Stephen Thompson, Damian Maia. On the other hand, Rakhmonov, he has the victory over Thompson as well, but he actually went out there and finished Wonder Boy, so that's a little bit different. And he has the Jeff Neal submission. Jeff Neal, tough fighter, dangerous fighter, but Jeff Neal has taken some recent losses, so I don't think that holds as much weight as the Sean Brady victory for Bilal Muhammad. I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence with this, though. I think Shavkat's the more exciting fighter. The fans don't like Bilal. I would have no problem if Shavkat gets the next shot against Leon Edwards. Another thing I will say as well, even though Bilal Muhammad has all these victories and whatnot, 23-3 as a pro, 14-3 in the UFC, I think his resume is slightly overrated. If you take a look at his victories, Burns was injured, and I thought he could have done more in that fight. I thought he should have pressed on the gas and went out there to finish Burns as he was one-armed. Deshaun Brady was nice, but used his wrestling to nullify Luque. Stephen Thompson's aged. Maya's aged. Diego Lyman Good, Takashi Sato, Curtis Millender. These are the fighters that he had victories before that. Okay, and then he had a loss to Jeff Neal. All right, so Jeff Neal, a fighter that Shavkat has a victory over. So who should have that next shot? I want to know what you guys think about that. I'm very interested to know your guys' thoughts. Is it Bilal or Shavkat next? All right, guys, and then we had the big boy here, a 7-unit play on Alexandre Pantoja. I was all over this play here. This was the big play of the night. When I saw this line dip to -175 on Bovada, I was ecstatic. I really felt comfortable that Pantoja was going to use his grappling to take control of this fight. He's just a primed fighter. He has all that experience. Just went to war with Moreno in a 5-round fight to snatch the title. I just felt he was going to be so ready for this fight. Brandon Royval is such a fun fighter to watch, but I've been watching him for a long time, and he leaves a lot of openings, and there's things that he needs to sharpen up. He's an exciting fighter, but you saw he struggled so much from his back over there as Pantoja held him down in that half guard position. And even in the 5th round, when he finally had Pantoja gassed, Pantoja was gassed, and Pantoja was still the fighter landing. He was the one landing the leg kicks and somehow getting out of the way. Royval was just throwing all these shadow shots when it seemed he was the fresher fighter. I'm surprised he didn't whip a head kick up there or something crazy to try to finish the fight. But Pantoja wins comfortably, basically won every round. You could argue maybe he lost one round, but that was a big time 7-unit cash there. So obviously I felt great about that, and that's what solidified a huge night for me. And then that was the end of the official action there. And I'm excited to see what's next for Pantoja. I really, really like Pantoja, not just as a fighter, man, but as a guy that represents the sport in a great way. This guy is a class act, great dude, and I'm a huge fan of Pantoja now. All right, so then we go over to the main event where Leon Edwards just basically, I don't want to say styled on Colby, man, but he did more than enough. Colby shit the bed, man. Colby Covington goes out here, gives the first 2 rounds to Leon Edwards. Why would you do that? Why would you go out there and just do this little pitter-patter from the outside where you're clearly losing the first 2 rounds? In a 5-round fight, how do you give up 2 rounds? I can't believe that he didn't go out there and march across the cage and really just try to, as Rogan was saying, right, try to push the pace in this fight and then try to have that success with your cardio and your gas tank and your grappling and all that. And if he would have did that, you could potentially argue this fight could have went differently, if you want to be honest, because Colby's the guy that finished on top in the 5th round. If he would have pushed the pace early on, he could have maybe took this fight over, earlier in the fight. So, I'm glad he didn't. And I'll tell you why. I think that Colby Covington is a complete clown. I've never been a big fan of Colby's, but there's some things I liked about him, specifically the fact that he used to show up and deliver a fight. He talked the big game and would make these fights exciting, but he would actually show up and give us something to watch and be excited about. I mean, the fights with Usman, they were always fun. Any other time he had fights against these veteran fighters, he would go out there and just, break statistical records on these guys, pushing the pace and just smashing them up. We saw violence, right? What we saw from him, I know he was coming off a long layoff and whatnot, but what we saw from him, he dropped the ball. He went out there, he's giving Trump and Kid Rock, fist bumps and all that. He's saluting them, and then he doesn't even represent. He just, I think that the whole Trump movement and all that should completely turn their back on Colby. I think that Trump should disassociate with Colby. He should have nothing to do with Colby. It's a horrible look for Trump. Whether you guys like Trump or not, I'm just talking about it as far as from the mixed martial arts world in regards to that. But Colby is a guy, he loses this fight convincingly, and then he wants to talk about the fact that he won and the judges didn't give him the fight because he's with Trump. He's basically disrespecting Trump, right? I saw that Trump got up and walked out of the arena as Colby was on the mic, which I was happy to see. I hope that Trump never conversates and just completely disowns Colby after what we saw from him. And what he said about Leon Edwards in the press conference, okay, I'm all for guys saying anything that they want. I don't care, man. Family stuff, this and that. If they want to do that, depending on how they do it and whatnot. Like with Colby, it was cringy. So he's going to have that stigma behind him. But at least if he goes out and delivers, people are going to be tuning in. I'm not crazy about it. It's not what I would be doing, but I don't have a problem with it in the sense that I'm like, oh, you can't do that. Or I see some of these guys on Instagram and Twitter saying, oh, I'm not even going to tune in for the fights. I mean, these guys grow a pair, man, grow a pair. You're not going to tune in and watch the fight because of that. I mean, I can't stand dudes like that. Now, it was disrespectful. It made me actually respect Leon Edwards in a whole nother way. I mean, this guy is a class act. I don't like the fact that he got so emotional, and of course, it was something that was it was a very emotional situation for him. But you got to understand that a guy like Colby's going to say those kind of things. You got to just tune it out, man. Just ignore him. All right, you like how Khabib handled Conor McGregor. I wouldn't even say to do it like this, but you saw the way Wonder Boy handled Colby at the press conference. Just joke about it or just completely let it brush right off you. But what I would do is just completely ignore him. Just, he's a fool. I would just be like, yeah, you're going to get me worked up. You can't let it get you worked up, man. Some of these guys, these are grown men, and they're warriors, they're fighters, but I feel some of them didn't grow up in households, man, or they weren't part of football teams, tackle football, American football style, like stuff like that, man, because people, where I grew up, man, South Florida, people are always talking crazy nonsense like that, man. All the boys were always testing each other, looking for any chink in your armor about your personal life, this and that, man. And yeah, you can fight about it, whatever. But you know what? You go through it for so long that it kind of makes you. It doesn't phase you. Like how I see some of these dudes get phased by it. It's like they have that only child syndrome. They get all worked up. And again, I'm not saying it's something to make light of. Of course, you're losing a father. That's something I can't even relate. I can't even really relate to that situation. But I do know I've had some personal situations. People could say stuff like that. I would be like, man, whatever. Especially in that situation, because you're gonna be fighting him tomorrow anyway, and he's doing it just to get a rise out of you, and it's in front of the whole world, and you can't really do anything about it there anyway. What are you gonna do? You're gonna charge him, and what are you gonna do? You're gonna start throwing a hissy fit there. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. So you gotta have thicker skin, man. Just these guys are low life. So Colby is cut off. He's done after not. The only thing he had going for himself was the fact that he would deliver when he fought. Now he didn't deliver. He made it a boring fight and all that. Done. Colby is done. I hope Wonder Boy head kick knocks him out. All right. So that recapped the card. Sorry if I went on too long about that. And then for those of you guys that are sticking around me here, I'm just gonna briefly touch upon the Sean Strickland Dricus du Plessis situation, which was a wild one. I think Dricus, his stock went up more than anybody's this weekend. The way he handled himself at the press conference. Again, we talk about personal attacks. Sean Strickland had that coming to him. He wants to get personal with everybody. I love the way Dricus did that, saying he's going to beat him worse than his father ever beat him. I like that stuff. Sean deserves to have someone telling him something like that. He wants to attack everybody. Now you get it back. And Sean Strickland, Mr. Tough Guy, big fan of Sean Strickland's, but again, a little bit of only child syndrome going on there. He's starting to throw a little hissy fit. You saw him getting all emotional at the press conference. Come on, if you're gonna dish it, you got to be able to take it, man. You got to be able to take all that. If you're ruthless, right? Strickland's such a ruthless guy. He says all this crazy stuff. You got to be able to handle the most ruthless stuff that's thrown your way, right? He got all emotional, and he attacked Dricus at the fights, and maybe Dricus had it coming to him. He said, "Hey, from what I heard Dricus said, hey, let's go right now." That's what Gilbert Burns' wife was saying. So he kind of called for it, and I have no problem with the fact Strickland did that. I think it makes the fight more exciting, and I think that Strickland's stock went up a little bit for doing that as well. So I love it. I love it all. But Dricus, to me, he is a guy that shows now he could be ruthless on the mic as well, but he has the wit to go with it. This guy has the class and the wit. I think Dricus, I hope he's the future of the division. I really hope so. He's a fight finisher. I love me some Sean Strickland, but this guy Dricus, bro, he's this guy's starting to grow on me, man. He's a dope dude. He engages on social media. He likes to post, from the teller and IG. He comments back and whatnot. He's a cool dude. He's slick, and got the James Bond vibes going. So I thought that was just a whole fun situation. And even with O'Malley, right? Let me say this too. O'Malley kind of got Strickland, right, with that comment where he said, "Hey, at least my dad didn't F me." And Strickland, you saw Strickland. He was like, "What? What'd you say?" When he clearly heard him. So Strickland, he's got to be sharper when these guys start to attack him back personally, because I could tell that's the one chink in his armor, that whole situation that he went on the Joe Rogan Experience and he talked all about. So everyone knows now, and there's going to be more guys going for him with that situation if he goes after them. So he's got to sharpen up there. All right, guys. So that was a little bit long-winded. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this recap. Again, great way to finish the final card of the year, profiting, just under 7 units of profit. So great night. Hope you guys all had a profitable night. Let me know what plays you guys targeted. Where did you guys hit? Where did you guys miss? I want to see all that below in the comment section, and you guys will see a bunch more content coming from me, even over the holidays, leading, up to the next event, which we have some time. We have a couple weeks, right, leading up to that first event, which is the Johnny Walker versus Magomed Ankalaev fight card. All right, so and that's even within a couple weeks into the new year. We got time, but I got some new content coming towards you guys' way, and I'm going to shake this channel up. A lot of new exciting things will be coming to you guys. I promise you guys. I'm shaking this thing up, and I'm going to be getting a lot of new equipment, and I got some new ideas of what I'm going to be doing here at the show. I'll be making it exciting for you guys. All right, guys, signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.